I always go for the worst kind of guys. I've dated some really selfish men, as well as unloyal men. Like when I was in high school, I dated the school jock, even though everyone knew he was a jerk. He was so up himself, and he thought everyone was below him. But I still had a huge attraction to him. I don't even know why. He wasn't that handsome either. I guess I just had really bad taste in men. In college, I started pursuing this guy who had a big reputation for cheating on girls. You probably think I'm really stupid, but you have to understand, I was in love. It doesn't make any sense, but sometimes you can't help the way you feel, right? Well, when I met my billionaire husband, I thought that for the first time, I was attracted to someone who wasn't a jerk or a cheat. His name was Tom, and he was so kind and sweet. I believe things were going to work out amazing between us. I couldn't have been more wrong. But first, before I dive into this juicy story, please make sure you like and subscribe and hit that notification bell so you don't miss out on any more juicy content. Thank you, I really appreciate it. When I met Tom, I thought I'd found the perfect man to be my husband. We met at a friend's wedding, and when I saw him, I immediately knew I was in love with him. He was at the buffet helping himself to some food, and he was dressed in a cute tuxedo, and his brown hair was all ruffled and messy. He was so handsome, and to top it all off, he was so nice to me too. He immediately complimented me on my dress and told me I was beautiful. I have to admit, I was pretty much in love with him at that moment, within a few minutes of first meeting him. That's another thing. I fall in love really easy. Anyway, we started dating and I couldn't believe he would date me, of all people. I wasn't pretty at all, or that's what I believed, and I didn't really think I was that interesting. But he seemed to like me. He would buy me tons of expensive gifts too, and we would go on vacation a lot. On our third date, he bought me this huge diamond necklace, which must have cost hundreds of thousands of dollars. I couldn't believe it. I asked him how he could afford something like this, and he just said I shouldn't worry about it. I wanted to dig a little deeper, so I did some research and found out he was the owner of this massive car company. That's when I realized my boyfriend was a billionaire. Well, that just made me love him even more. After a few months, I was just about ready to marry him. He was the perfect guy, handsome, kind, generous, and then finally Tom proposed. He paid for this romantic dinner by the seaside and had a small violinist come over to play while he proposed. It was so romantic. We moved into a new house, a huge mansion with over 7 bedrooms, and even a cinema, and everything seemed perfect. But it was far from it. At first, things were fine. Actually, probably the happiest I'd ever been. But as the weeks went by, I found Tom started to change. He would switch from his previously kind character and started asking me to do a lot of stuff around the house, like sweep and clean. It didn't make sense though, since he could easily afford a maid. But before long, I almost felt like the maid of the house. Since I didn't have a job and Tom was the one who mainly worked, I thought my life would be pretty carefree. But that wasn't the case. Tom made me do all sorts of chores, some of which were really hard, and I found myself exhausted by the end of the day. This wasn't how a husband should treat his wife. It was rude and selfish, but I supposed he was earning all the money, so I convinced myself that maybe this was the right thing to do. One day, Tom came home from work and asked me to put on this costume for him. I was curious what he meant, but then I cried out when I realized it was a maid costume. I told him no, I wouldn't wear it. And why did he want me to anyway? But then he started yelling at me and he got really mad. And I don't know, I guess I just wanted to please him. So I said I'd wear it. Tom made me wear the maid uniform every single day. It was so humiliating. He made me wash his clothes, sweep the house, clean the kitchen, do everything you can imagine a maid could do. But in truth, I was fine doing it if it meant he was happy. Once I embraced my role as his maid, he was so nice all the time and always treated me kindly. I believed what I was doing was worth it. But then came that fateful day. It was Tom's birthday, and I was planning this huge surprise party with all of his friends from work. I organized all the food, drinks, and entertainment. When he finally arrived, he was so shocked. I ran up to him to wish him a happy birthday, but he seemed to kind of ignore me. I thought maybe he just hadn't noticed me, but then he glanced at me and ordered me to start serving drinks. I couldn't believe my husband would do something like that. He still wanted me to be his maid. I had to serve everyone, and no one realized was that I was his wife. I walked up to Tom to tell him how I felt. I had had enough. Tom, I need to speak with you, I said. Oh, hello there, he said as if he were speaking to a maid. He then proceeded to introduce me to his friends as his maid. Guys, this is my maid Amber. Don't you have work to do, Amber? I couldn't believe my ears. Why would he do this? I thought Tom was the perfect guy. As it turned out, my record for dating the worst guys still wasn't broken. Tom! I shouted, and everyone at the party stopped to stare. We're over. I'm filing for a divorce. You humiliated me for long enough, and I'm done being your maid. You can keep your money. You can take away the gifts you gave me. I don't care. I don't love you anymore. Tom glared at me with red eyes full of fury. I could tell he was so angry. Then suddenly he grabbed my arm and forced me out of the room. The party guests seemed to just think it was a problem between a boss and his maid, but little did they know I was actually his wife. Tom dragged me upstairs and I couldn't fight back. He was way too strong. He yanked my arm and then he locked me in the attic. He slammed the trap door and I heard the lock slip through. I tried to call for help, but no one could hear me over the music from the party. I was up there for hours. I couldn't believe my husband would do something like this. He couldn't just lock his wife up. That was disgusting. I realized Tom wasn't the man I thought he was. Hours passed, and eventually the party ended, and everyone went home. It seemed like Tom wouldn't be coming up for ages. I started to walk around the attic to see if there was a phone or something I could use to call the police, but I bumped into a pile of boxes, and a digital camera fell out. I bent down and picked it up curiously. It still had batteries in it. I turned it on and found a single video in its gallery. I pressed play. It was a video of a woman. She was wearing the same clothes as me, and she seemed to be sitting in the attic. She started to speak, and what she said shook me to my core. Hi, I don't know you, and you don't know me, but if you're watching this, that means Tom has locked you up in the attic, as he did to me. My name is Tina, and I used to be the loving wife of Tom. That is, until Tom made me his maid. It might sound crazy, but Tom has done this before you. That's right, all of his recent wives, he made them his maid. And when he got bored of them, or when the wives got fed up, he fired them as if they were nothing. You may be wondering why Tom behaves this way. Let me explain. I figured this one day when I was looking through Tom's things as I cleaned. I found his diary from ages ago, and this is what I discovered. Tom hates women. Like, really hates women. His mother left him when he was young, and his father was very abusive. His father hated women, and so he taught his son the same thing. Now, to punish women, and in a way to punish his mother for abandoning him, he makes women be his maid to humiliate them. I only figured this out just now, and so I'm leaving this as a warning to any of his future wives. Get out of there. It isn't safe, and stop being his maid. Trust me, he's not worth it. The video ended, and I was numb with shock. I couldn't believe what I had just heard. Was Tom going to hurt me? What did Tina mean? I heard footsteps suddenly, and then my stomach dropped as Tom came up the attic stairs. He suddenly appeared in front of me. Stay back, I yelled. I know everything. I know about your past wives. I know about your abandoning mother. I know you hate women. Tina told me everything. Tom's eyes widened as I slammed him with all this new information. What? He exclaimed. This is wrong, Tom. You can't hate women. Your mother may be bad for walking out on you, but that doesn't mean every woman is a bad person. I started crying. I loved you, Tom. I really did. Why did you have to do this to me? Then, to my surprise, Tom started to break down crying in front of me. I'm so sorry, Amber. He was down on his knees begging. I know it's wrong, but I just get so angry. I promise you, I won't treat you like a maid ever again. Please, I love you. Please forgive me. I turned my head. I don't forgive you, I said, and Tom flinched at the words. I'm done dating horrible men, I said, and with those last words, I ran past him, heading for the attic door. He tried to grab me, but I managed to slip through his fingers. I bolted down the stairs and immediately grabbed my phone and called the police, and they arrested him for holding me against my will. I can now confidently say I have a much better taste in men. My current husband is a kind, sweet, and gentle man who loves me very much, as every husband should be. And I can tell you, he does not make me clean the house every day. In fact, he does most of the cleaning around here.